Hey everyone! So after the Herschel release, so our free-to-play toon, we now have Elena, who is a new toon who has the skill Exhaust, which is completely new, and Scopely actually has a breakdown for this one, and I'm kind of excited to go through it with you. She seems like a very interesting toon, and of course, pretty OP. Again, it looks like she's tending towards the new meta of bleed and burn in order to kill the opposition. So you might ask what Exhaust does, and so Scopely has actually broken it down pretty well. So she stops fast rushing teams basically. So a toon under the influence of Exhaust, for every 10% AP gained, they will be dealt a specific amount of maim damage. Now, I'm interested to know, first off, if maim resist mods are able to negate this effect or not. It'll be interesting to see the interaction, because I know some people were having issues with Charlie recently, but to go into detail with Charlie, we have to look at how it's worded. So with Charlie, there's 100% chance of a taunt. So this means that when Charlie's HP is more than 75%, he has 100% chance to taunt the enemy, which is different than 100% taunt to the enemy. So when you think of resist mods, they will never have to go off or have a roll of a dice if an effect is not occurring. For instance, if Charlie's HP is less than 75%, so he's in manic mode and he does a normal attack, that attack has 0% chance to taunt the enemy, meaning if the enemy that you're attacking has a taunt resist mod, that mod will not have a roll for a potential to block the taunt. So a sports analogy that I can think of is a shooter who makes 100% of foul shots. So if they take a foul shot, they will make it 100% of the time. But as soon as you add in a blocker, they have a chance to block your shot, even though it's 100%, because now you have another factor in play that will influence what happens in the end. This type of weapon is very similar to, say, Cole's active skill, where he can taunt on the first turn with it up to 3 enemies. But those 3 enemies, if they have taunt resist mods, they still have a potential to block the taunt. It's similar to a rush as well. So let's take a toon like Michelle. Whenever she rushes, there's 100% chance that she will apply stun to a toon unless they have a resist mod. It's a very similar concept. I will admit Scopely should have worded it better, but when we compare it to other weapons that have a better chance, well, a better chance is usually about 35%. Anyway, moving back to the toon Elena. So Elena's active skill can go off on turn 1, and it exhausts enemies that use rapid AP gain. To me, she's an interesting toon to release after Pete, only because Pete's active skill is maim recovery. So if you have a toon, like in this example above, they have Gabriel actually as one of the toons involved, and Gabriel has the ability when he rushes to recover from all penalties. So I don't think that team on defense is a good example to show what Elena can do. So moving on to Elena as a 6-star, we look at her rush first. It's a 76 AP rush, which is pretty normal, but it deals 400 bleed damage for 3 turns to 1 enemy and all adjacent enemies. Those enemies then get 100% heal reduction for 3 turns as well. This basically causes them to bleed out. This rush is really great in my opinion and works well under the current meta of being a bleed burn. Her specialist skill is Lacerator, and as all of you know, I love my bleed team and have been using my albino Shiva as my Lacerator as of late. So this combination as a adrenaline rush is very intelligent in my opinion, because if you're able to rush on the center toon, you now apply 400 bleed to the center toon and all other toons that are in your raid or war match, for instance. And then any attack after that you use Lacerator on, it will double that bleed. So that bleed will go from 400 to 800, for instance. That doesn't even include any of your other toons that you might have bleed mods on because bleed stacks. And then lacerator can be used to double the bleed that is inflicted. If it's hemo bleed or if it's normal bleed, both types will be doubled. Then her active skill, bleed and exhaust. So it can be used on turn 1. So deal 400 bleed damage and 250 exhaust for 3 turns to a line of enemies. Now, it'll be interesting to know how 250 exhaust will play into effect with the certain amount of maim damage that will be applied to the target if they're under the influence of exhaust and when they gain 10% of their max AP. It will also be interesting moving forward to see what other toons will get the ability exhaust. Now, when we move on to Elena's weapon, we come across something truly unique. So she has a bound weapon that gives focus for 8 turns at the start of the match, meaning if you could get her to rush on the first turn, which is very possible, you could apply that 400 bleed and 100% heal reduction to all enemies on the other team. She will always be able to attack around the human shields and be able to fight through confuse and taunt if they're applied to her. Unless you're able to use a toon, I think it's Elle who can remove focus from toons when she rushes. A medium bonus to AP when attacking will be likely swapped out for something different, probably a huge bonus to AP when attacking, and that plus 30 attack, well, if I had Elena, I might switch it out to plus 30 or more HP or defense. But that's mainly because her role is very similar to my Shiva, who's a lacerator, in my opinion. And it's better if she survives rather than if she's a heavy attacker, because her rush applies a flat amount of damage anyway. So once we actually understand the formula for exhaust, I think a lot of people will be able to utilize Elena really well, especially against toons like the Doctor, who give 2 other teammates 60% AP when he rushes and applies Impair to the enemy and Taunt. So she has a neat combination of skills in my opinion, because now you have bleed and maim on a single toon as well as 100% heal reduction. And because people can only really mod against 2 types of resist, so like stun, confuse, taunt, impair, bleed, burn, defense down, 100% heal reduction, attack down, not that attack down is really used as a resist mod very much, but when we take a look at things, it used to be stun was huge, and then it was a mixture of stun and impair a bit. And then when the AI changed and they made those adjustments to many of the taunt toons so that they would use their active skill more often, well, a lot of people started switching over to taunt resist mods. And then maim resist mods next, because we had toons like Zachary and Mia, for example. And now we are in a bleed and burn meta. So we got Hina, who was, I don't know if she was supposed to be free to play or not, but she was definitely behind a paywall on the roadmap. Then there was Mike, who was a limited edition toon that you had to pull on for a specific item. I can't remember what one it was called again, but he does a lot of bleed. And we have Wayland, of course, with his very unique weapon, so there's a 50% chance when he's attacked to cause 750 burn damage for 2 turns to that enemy. And overall, I find it to be pretty unique that just over a half dozen scrolls or so, you just see the changing metas when you go into the Ascendance Towers. You see Zachary, you see the Doctor, you see Raven, you see Negan and Olivia, you see Mia, you see Mike, who was before his time, you see the Governor and Elle. Then you go on and you see Pete Anderson, your first S-toon, and Wayland and Ty and Hina and Ryan and Jesse and Priya and now Elena. And it's all really interesting when you think about it. And I decided to compare exhaust to elusive kind of, because elusive is performed so that the enemy does not gain AP when they attack. Meanwhile, exhaust is designed to actually punish them for gaining AP. So this goes back to wanting to run teams that rely upon basic attacks and not on AP gain. And with so many toons now having that weird active skill where they do this and they gain 35% AP, if they do that, they're going to receive whatever 3 times the amount of a set maim damage is if they're under the influence of exhaust. Or some toons who rush and give AP to either other toons or themselves. Or if you think about it, a toon like Marlin and Rosie, who has a better chance to gain plus 50% AP when attacking, they would get 5 times the amount of set maim damage, basically making one of my favorite toons unusable against her. Thank you for watching and listening to my video.